Hello everyone and welcome to the 24 Hours of PASS Data Security and Data Quality presentation. Right now we're really excited you could join us today for Reinaldo's session on Hackers Move Away. We are always encrypted. I know that security is often a common topic that a lot of us like to avoid, myself included. So just as a short introduction, my name is Anil Desai. I'm an independent consultant based in Austin, Texas. And I have a few introductory slides before I hand this over to Reinaldo. So if you could go to the next slide, Reinaldo. And Reinaldo, could you just move it to the next slide? Okay, great, perfect. And so on this one, regarding technical assistance, couple of points to get through real quickly. If you require any technical assistance, feel free to type your question into the question pane. It's located on the right side of your screen, and I or someone else will assist you. That includes technical questions regarding the presentation. We'll try to save some time at the end. If there are just basic questions, I'll handle those and answer those while we go, or otherwise if they're more in-depth or detailed questions, I'll leave those for Reinaldo. Because he's certainly got a lot of more background in it. One thing I wanted to just mention is that he's been Reinaldo's been closely involved with SQL Server and security, including by being a part of the Microsoft Technology Adoption Program, or TAP, which some of you might be familiar with. So not only is he a user of these features and an expert, but he's actually had a role in actually the design of these features as well. So I don't think you'll find a better expert in that area. We are also going to have a poll slide that will be sometime in the closer to the beginning of the session, and we'll just give you a chance to answer some, just a quick question related to security. So Reinaldo, if you could go to the next slide. Wanted to say thanks to our sponsors, of course, Microsoft and Redgate Software. Some of you are probably pretty familiar with Redgate and their tools. Next slide. Okay, and if you just some information about PASS, it's a not-for-profit organization. You get options to learn about SQL Server and other technologies all year round. Like this session here, membership is free, so just go to pass.org, you can find it there. And also you might have local or groups and virtual groups online. Okay, next slide. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Reinaldo, and he's going to introduce himself, and I think we're all really excited about this session. Hackers Move Away, we are always encrypted. Go ahead, Reinaldo.
So good morning, good evening, everyone. Reinaldo Kibel here. And I want to start by saying some credits to this presentation. It doesn't come easy. My co-worker, Rui Pimentel, database engineer here at my company as well. And from Microsoft, Jakub Szymaszek, the project manager for Always Encrypted, always helped us quite a lot on getting some of this done. A little bit about myself. Thank you. I paid a lot of money for all that great introduction.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My family in there, and I'm an avid bike rider. I actually love bike riding. Been bike riding almost every day in my life. If you see me in Dallas or Austin, where I live in Dallas, you'll probably see me with a bike in my car, in the back of my car, and you know, there's some nice trails or some nice trees and mountains. I'm there, and I also have fun traveling. And I thought this was a little nice picture of me and my daughter at the Met in New York. Of course, I had to find some nice picture to show with some excitement. So encryption and cybersecurity has a major stake in our companies. I don't know if y'all recall, but I'm sure everybody's familiar with Yahoo, right? Yahoo have been on their up and down, right? And probably one of the starters of this whole internet revolution, right? You know, where you search. You know, my first email was on Yahoo. You know, I still have reinaldo@yahoo.com. Yeah, you know, Yahoo has been like, you know, really one of the biggest starters, and just because of hackers, right? Just because of Yahoo being hacked, Verizon last year when we went to buy it, right? It took away $1 billion out of the price tag for Yahoo. So think about that, $1 billion on a 4.8 billion, right? To buy. I mean, that's quite a significant amount of money, right? To to take off just because it was hacked. So the importance, what we're going to show today, and thank you, Pass, for putting all this Pass on security together, right, is all about security, all about encryption, all about the importance of being sensitive to the data that you have. Gartner also shows that all the different, technology importance today, right? Analytics, of course, machine learning and all this, IoT is important, and digital security just like the third there, right? 43% of importance to deliver security on an environment. Then that's according to Gartner. And I was just out with my daughter looking at universities on the East Coast just a couple of weeks ago, and long and behold, I was surprised, to come there and hear, somebody talk about cybersecurity in the university. I'm like, really? Y'all have cybersecurity, training, classes or so? And, and according to Forbes, look at this. I mean, in 2016, there were 209,000 cybersecurity jobs in the U.S. that were unfilled. 209,000, right? So BDBA is great. I think today maybe, cybersecurity guy would be even interesting.
Reinaldo,
So,
I can go ahead and push the poll if you wanted to do that
yes,
right now. Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So attendees, you can just feel free to answer. What kind of encryption have you used in the past? And I'll wait about 30 seconds so you have time to respond. And Reinaldo, I think you can see the results so far. Can you see them?
Not really.
Okay, I'll just tell you right now where it looks like TDE has about a third of the people say they've used that. SSL has about 50%. And then the remaining 15% was encrypted columns and always encrypted. So it looks like a lot of people are really going to appreciate the information you have today. So yeah, great. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the poll. Thanks to the audience for responding.
So we're going to go into a demo right now. So let me bring in okay, so moving the screen away wasn't a good idea. Okay, we lost it. Okay, so in my demo in here, what I did to hopefully simplify what I'm going to show is the following. I have a pair of database servers, okay? And the reason I have a pair of database servers is exactly because I want to show the encryption of a database, encryption of a table, right? I'm sorry, of a column. And from a database perspective, right, usually, if I have such a sensitive data in my database, the database is not going to be alone. So it's going to be on more than one server. And what I'm going to show you here is running that on a SQL Server with Always Encrypted and with Always On as well. Okay, so availability group listener is in there as well. So let me reconnect to this because obviously the screen resolution wasn't good. So I basically have here two database servers. I have a database 1 and a database 2, okay? And I have an application server where I'm going to show an application so I can do a small demo and explanation to y'all, okay? So the first thing is, let's say, for example, and I'm trying to simplify this as much as I can so that it's hopefully clear where we're getting at. So if I get a table, for example, with people's salary, right? And I do a select as being an admin to this database, I can get the data, right? If I have a table that is already encrypted, and I'm going to talk more about encryption in a little bit, but if I have a table that is already is encrypted, I just see all this salary encrypted, right? So say you are, Bill Gates, Carlos Slim, right? Howard Schultz, of course, their salary is available online, and that's how I got it. But I didn't get it encrypted, right? But let's say that you have some other important salary in your company on your HR system, right? And you don't want to share that with others, right? You don't want to have the DBA just because the DBA has access to the database, right? And that's why I'm here on the database server, right? Be able to see that salary, right? So the name column here, I'm not going to encrypt. However, this salary column here is encrypted. So if I go to an application server and we wrote this small little app just to look at the data, and I'm going to show you the config file for a second. Okay, so I'm connecting to that to the database using the availability group listener. Okay, I'm not using the database server name, I'm using the listener name, and I'm going to connect right now in the beginning to a database that is not encrypted, just to show you the difference between one and the other. Okay, so I'm going to save this for a second. I'm going to run the application, and y'all can see the data just like we could see in there. I can add another one. Anil, I'm going to use your name.
Sure. If you can spell it, D-E-S-A-I.
Okay, and we're going to be nice to Anil, and we're going to give him a nice salary, even bigger than Bill Gates.
I'll take it.
You know, there you go.
Great, thank you.
So, you know, you can see this in there. If I go to the database, back to the database, and I look at that same not encrypted table, I see the value there that I added for Anil, right? Now, let's go, and I'm going to stop the application, okay? And this is the application server, not the database server, okay? And I'm going to stop my webcam as well. I think you already saw me. So I'm going to now change the connection string, and I'm going to use now the database that is encrypted, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to add encryption to your database. Okay. Okay, I'm going to copy this. So, changing the connection string, okay, saving. And right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you here, I'm doing two things. I'm just changing the database here, and the only reason I'm changing the database is just to make it simple and faster for me to show you all what I'm doing, okay? So instead of being the not encrypted one, I'm going to do one that is encrypted, okay? And the same availability group listener name of the server, right? So you can see I'm highlighting here, highlights on the bottom. That's why I use this Visual Studio Code. So you can see as I'm doing that. And additionally, I'm going to pass, actually maybe I'm not going to pass this right now. Let me just show you what's going to happen. If I don't pass this parameter here, and the database is encrypted, so I'm going to save. I'm going to close this down for a second. I'm going to run the application, and the application tries to get in, and the database is encrypted, and the application doesn't know that it is encrypted. It just tries to go in and connect. You get an error, right? So the .NET framework already says unhandled exception has occurred in your application, right? And there's a incoverable type mismatch between the source column salary, right? Because it's encrypted, right? Of byte as opposed to decimal, right? So you'll see that error if you try to access from a .NET application. You try to access a database, and the database has encrypted data. You'll get this. So what does the developer have to do? Okay. So what the developer has to do is one simple change, which is to add this to the connection string. Column encryption key, column encryption key, column encryption setting equals enabled. Okay? This is all that the developer has to do to their connection string in order to be able to partake into accessing the data that has been encrypted with Always Encrypted. Okay? So I'm gonna go save this thing, close down, run the application again, and voila, you can see Bill Gates' salary in here, you can see Carlos Slim's salary in here, right? So all the salary now is not encrypted anymore, right? And if I want to add Anil Desai here again, right, with a nice salary comparable to Bill Gates, you know, I can also do that, and it adds in there, right? The application starts working as soon as I pass that parameter. So again, the only thing I changed from an application developer side, right? So I'm playing now I'm using the hat of the application developer. All the application developer had to do was to add that one statement, one line statement in order to be able to get in there. Okay. I'm going to close the application again, and I'm going to go back to the presentation. Okay. So SQL Server 2016 was released last year, and I don't know if you have seen this before, but if you have, sorry to show you that again. But I just wanted to concentrate on 5 of the key elements that came out on SQL Server 2016. You know, the highly transactional memory LTP, table in memory, the highest performing data warehouse, end-to-end mobile BI, right? The R, you know, the analytics in there, advanced analytics. And then I want to concentrate on this one here today, which is the security, right? So one of the 5 key important things that came out of 2016 was about security. And there's a lot of stuff that were added into security with the security mind into SQL Server 2016. According to Microsoft, right? I don't have any ownership of this graph, so those both slides came from Microsoft directly. But I wanted to mention, show here, you know, a few interesting ones that have the new on them, and this is new onto SQL Server 2016, and of course on the forthcoming SQL Server 2017, those are available as well. And I'll probably cover a few of the 2017 items as well at the end of the presentation. There's advanced threat analytics, which is new on SQL Server 2016, and you know, that's, you know, you can only monitor hackers, right? I'm sorry, prevent hackers from coming in, but being able to analyze and do analytics on top of that when you're being hacked is really, really important. One of the most common talk that I hear is that by the time you're hacked and the time that you find that you're hacked, right, on most of the security conferences I've been at, the common is at least a 9-month period that it takes between the time you're hacked and the time that the company finds out that they're hacked. Think about that, 9 months. So threat analytics will help with that. There were 3 new stuff related to being able to secure data, and I'll briefly talk about that. There's row-level security, dynamic data masking, and the Always Encrypted, which I just showed you, and this is the main item we're covering on this talk. Row-level security is basically providing like it says, is a row level. So I can have different users accessing the same table and seeing different data, right? So maybe, you know, Anil and I, for example, Anil could be seeing part of the table that has, I don't know, your independent consultant. Okay, so for independent consultants, and I could see the other part of the table that have Dell, because I work for Dell. Dell Technologies, the data in there. So for example, I could use row-level security to prevent, you know, to protect part of the data being seen here and seen there. Dynamic data masking, I'll talk a little bit about that later, and of course, Always Encrypted is the main talk. So hold your thoughts on that for a second. So this is why I wanted the poll in the beginning. You know, transparent data encryption has been in the industry for quite some time. Most RDBMS, most databases support that. And I personally, as a database professional, as understanding what data is, I really dislike that. I do not like transparent data encryption. Why? Because it gives a false premise that, hey, I'm protected because my data is encrypted. yes, it is encrypted, but it's encrypted at rest. It's not really encrypted from a perspective of a DBA being able to access or a hacker being able to get to your data. So what you have in TDE, right, is I have it protects my database drives and my database backup from being restored to another server. It protects somebody from physically, stealing the drive, right, and attaching that database to another server without having the proper key, right? So TDE has great use. However, it doesn't do, in my mind, what you should really be doing today from a perspective of securing your data. And so I put in here, this is my own terminology, it's kind of medium and easy to implement, but in my personal humble opinion, it's a very weak security. Okay, it does get you out of a PCI compliance requirement sometimes, but in my mind, as a DBA, is a very weak security. Dynamic data masking, which is new to 2016. So by the way, TDE came in 2008 or 2, SQL Server 2008, I'm sorry, came TDE. So dynamic data masking, which is new 2016, it's pretty nice, right? Because it really obfuscates some of the data to prevent unauthorized access, right? There's no need to change the application code. There's no need to change the database code, right? So I kind of like said, it's kind of easy to implement and is okay from a security perspective because let's say I want to prevent, user A, like an admin, from accessing the data. I could mask, I'm sorry, if I wanted to prevent a user from accessing the data, I could mask that data on a column from users that shouldn't see the data. For example, here on the bottom, right, we're showing a social security number, which is the most common number, which is like a personal identifier number in the country from a perspective of tax. So it's a very important number for most of us here in the US. In other countries, I'm sure you have different IDs that are with that importance. So it's basically masking that from users that shouldn't see the data and users that can't see the data. It doesn't really change anything on the database, right? So the database is not changed. It's just a policy on top of who's going to be able to see what data, right? And what I really like, which is this one here, is the Always Encrypted. In my mind, is the best one of the security. It protects sensitive data, and the main use of it is the separation between those who own the data and can view it and those who manage the data. So the DBA, right, doesn't need to see social security numbers. Why, right? The database administrator doesn't need to see social security number. And one of the most common thing is when you try to add another user to your server, what is a common request? They try something. Okay, let me try. Let me be security conscious. I'm going to give you some access, so you give some minimum access. Oh, it's not working. Okay, let me give a little bit more. It's not working. Okay, fine. I'm tired. Let me just give him admin, and then so he can get his job done and leave me alone, right? So that's where I really think if you have sensitive data, right? You had an excuse until SQL Server 2016 came out. You have no more excuse, right? It's a little bit more complex to implement, but it's definitely, in my mind, the best security. And let me take off the drawings, erase all drawings, and go back to normal. Okay. So what we had here at our own company was this challenge about the SA password. When you run SQL Server and you have SQL Server running in integrated mode as well as in SQL Server login mode, right? So it allows me to log into SQL Server with the SA, with the system administrator, right? So I could be an admin to the server and log in with SA, or I could use in our case, we use Active Directory, right, logins. So I could also use Active Directory to log into my server as long as my Active Directory login is like part of my sysadmin. I'd still be sysadmin, the same as an SA, right? So the challenge was when we install SQL Server, the DBA that installs SQL Server has the password for SA because it's part of the installation, right? So as part of our script that does install the automation installation, right? The SA password is right there. So the request from our security governance was to hey, why do everybody has this SA password, right? With so much access to the database. So how can we change that? And then that's when, you know, we looked back, you know, how can I use this for all others here at Dell, right, on my company, right? And we decided to go implement this for our own benefit, right, for our own requirements, and also be a showcase for other developers so they can see, hey, how easy it is to do that. So what we did here is we have, after the installation, right, we start a process that it does automatically rotate the password, the SA password, via a job, right, a SQL Server job. Actually, I'm sorry, a PowerShell scheduled job. And whenever the DBA needs the SA password, they can request the password via a break glass process, put in the server name, put in their justification, submit the request, they get it, right? But this is tracked. So another very common thing about security is that you need to log your requests. You need to log who got access, when they got access, when they lost access, right? The time that they had the access and the time that they lost the access. So very important item for us here in our environment. So let's go dive into details on Always Encrypted. So Always Encrypted works transparently. I want to use the pen. It's totally transparent, right? That's what one of the real cool thing about that. The application has to do nothing other than add that connection string that I showed you, right? But you know, I'll talk about the three personas that I see within the Always Encrypted world, right? And their role and what each one is going to do. But like the developer, all they need to do is just add that connection to the connection string, or that command to the connection string. Always Encrypted ensures sensitive data is never seen in plain text in a SQL Server instance. Okay. If SQL Server is compromised, all an attacker can get is a ciphertext of the sensitive data. They cannot see the data, right? So this is what really is preventing me, right, from all those different things. TDE, dynamic data masking, don't do the same as this. This is unique to Always Encrypted. This is just Always Encrypted can do that, right? SQL Server will only handle encrypted data and not plain text value, okay? So I'll show you, if time permits, what happens when you start doing some work in there, right? And this is the algorithm that Always Encrypted uses to encrypt the data on the database. It's pretty nice, you know, top of the line industry standard, and a couple points that I'll point out here is the AES and the SHA, S-H-A names in here, very commonly used in the security industry. And the other interesting thing is there is a column master key that is used to encrypt the data and prevent the DBA from having that, and is stored in an external key store, not on SQL Server. Okay, so the key of this encryption is that this key, right, is stored outside of the SQL Server realm. Erase my drawings. Back to this. Okay. So you all may have seen that before. I decided I was going to do this with examples of swimmers. So I have here Michael Phelps on my database, Ryan Lochte, and Chad DeClaus, and their social security number. Chad obviously is not from the US, so shouldn't have a social security, but anyways, let's say this has a social security number. Once I use Always Encrypted, basically using ADO.NET I will, from a client side, I will encrypt the data, and now the social security on the database is going to change from being stored in plain text to being stored with this ciphertext, as you see here on the screen. So that's the first phase of encrypting some data. When the application wants to access it, the application still sends data in clear text, right? However, the ADO.NET library is the one that's going to transfer this text and convert it to encrypted data if it does have the column master key, right? So on my left side here is my application server. On my right side is a database server, right? And there's a bar here in the middle. So my left side is the only one that have the column master key, right? So based on the column master key, the ADO.NET is going to encrypt the data and send this 0x7ff, as you can see, matches the name in here, right? Matches the encrypted ciphertext in here. It returns Ryan's data because that's what the data is, and note that until it actually hits this boundary, the data was always encrypted. Oh, pretty good use of the term. The data was always encrypted. The result set only becomes decrypted on the client side when it passes through the ADO.NET library, because it does have the column master key to decrypt the data. So basically, all this traffic that goes in outside of the application server and into the database server, back from the database server, is all encrypted. Is always encrypted. The only time that it is not encrypted is when the client is looking at the data. So there's a couple keys that are of importance for when you use Always Encrypted. And similarly to, I think we all have, I can assume that most of you, if not all, have a smartphone today, right? If you have you know, an Apple phone and you try to use iCloud, right? You know what the two-phase authentication is, the 2FA is, right? If you have an Android phone, I don't know because I don't have an Android phone. If you have a Windows phone, sorry, don't have an example. But this is similarly with the similar thought process, similar idea. Okay, WhatsApp. Everybody has WhatsApp. You have seen that when you try to log into WhatsApp, you put in your credentials in there, and it sends you a text message with a 6-digit code or 4-digit code, I don't recall right now, that provide you some additional information to make sure that you are you, right? And you're accessing WhatsApp, right? And that's the idea of having not only one key, like long been the day of having a password being enough. You don't have just a password, you have two, right? You have two things that have to come together in order to open that door for you, open that access for you, right? So similarly here for Always Encrypted, we use a column master key, right, which is the one that I was showing you that stays in the application side. I'm sorry, the application side has access to the column master key, and there's a column encryption key. Okay, and I'll show you a little demo on creating one so y'all can see what I'm talking about. So the column master key encrypts and protects the column encryption key. So the master key encrypts and protects the encryption key. Column master key is key for protecting that encrypts one or more column encryption keys, is stored in a key store that is external to the database and accessible to the client application, right? So this is the key thing, right? It's not in the database, the column master key, and is accessible by the client app. That's where it becomes a little hard sometimes, to set this up. That's why I said the setup of this pod piece is a little bit complex, okay? Depending on which one of the key store you decide to use. And must be deployed on each client machine that needs access to the encrypted data. So for example, if I have 2 database servers, like in my case, but I have 16, 20 application servers, that has to be deployed on each one of the client servers that runs the application, okay? And neither of those are stored in the database. And then the column encryption key protects the data on the column by encrypting the column. and encrypts the values of the column encryption key are stored in the database in the system catalog views. And I'll cover that, I'll show you all. So there's 3 places where you can store the master key. One of them is the Windows Certificate Store, which I'm going to show you where it is. The other one is the Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure provides a Azure Key Vault that allows you to basically store a key in there and guarantee that your data is encrypted for those people that are considering putting their data and are concerned about security, right? So Azure already has a key vault that allows Always Encrypted to work on the SQL database that is available on Azure. And then there's also the HSM, or known for hardware security module, which is this is a dedicated hardware, very, very complex, very, very bulletproof, that will keep your key. And I'm going to go back to a demo again so I can show you all that now. So here I have my encrypted table, okay? And I'm using this one here, and I'll tell you all in a bit why I'm using this table. So this table here is the one that I showed you all before with 2 columns only. And if I go here to the security tab, there's an Always Encrypted key, and there's 2 tabs in here, one for the column master key, one for the column encryption key, just like we talked about, right? So you see that I'm not on the database server, right? I'm on the application server, not on one of the 2 databases. So I'm playing the role now of a DBA, I guess, but once we create the column master key, it should be done by the security professional in your company, right? So the column master key has, and I'm going to show you what do we have on this one here. It's basically so this is the thumbprint of this column encryption key, and I'm going to show you how do we match that to one that is available. And on this application server, because I'm able to access the data, I have created a certificate in here. And maybe I'm going to show you all from the beginning as well. So to get into the certificate, you go into MMC. So on the application server, right? You add a snap-in, and the snap-in we're going to add is the certificate snap-in. And I'm going to right now I'm going to use for my user account because I put this key on my user account, but traditionally you're going to use on the computer account. I was just trying to show the separation of duties on using my user account. So I'm going to show you my user account for a second. Click OK, and then you have the certificates in here on this computer, and you can see here if I double click on the certificate and look at the details. I'm not running too fast. Scroll down a little bit. There's a thumbprint. If you look at this thumbprint in here, I'm going to copy this thumbprint and back to SQL Server master key. Okay, so this thumbprint in here is very similar, is exactly the same as this information in here. So I'm going to remove this part here, right? So you can see this is exactly the same. I have the 3A there, I have the 7.9 and 7.3, right? Which is shown here at the end. Of course, the rest is the same. I'm just showing that those the thumbprint of the certificate and the key path is where that information is stored. Okay. and which is right here as well, right? I could show you this screen. I just show you the script because it's easier to copy and paste and show the numbers, okay? Just to show you where does it match. And that's the column master key. And then the column encryption key, if I script that as well, so you can see that. It has a reference to the master key that I'm using, right? See, master key 24 hours of pass current user, right? So I have a reference for that, and the algorithm and the encrypted value. So that's the key that that is used to encrypt the data into the database. Okay, so I'm going to close this two down. Close this down. Okay, because I already have one open. And my other demo I was going to show you here is I was going to run the application again and, you know, show server 1, salary 1, 2, 3, whatever that is, right? And I want to show you also that I can do a failover. I had a failover in one of those. In one of those examples, I had a failover. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna, right now this, the database is primary on level 2, and I'm gonna make it be primary on level 1 by doing a failover. So I'm gonna do a quick failover. And back to the application, and I'm going to do now server 2 and show that I can type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, save the record, and the record is saved. So Always Encrypted working with both database servers, right? So I was able to show you that I can do Always Encrypted data on server 1 and server 2, database server 1, database server 2, right? And the other interesting thing I'm going to show you is on the server itself, right? If I go to that same current user certificate, right, and I refresh, I don't have the key in here. The certificate is not on the database server 2, and I'm going to go to database server 1 and show you the same thing, that the certificate is also not on that server. Maybe it is because I was trying to show something. Okay, so it is on the server, but I can delete it from here. And the same application, so let's go back to server 1, fill over the database back to, well, database is running server 1, okay, and 789, just show that I can save a record, that I don't need to be on that server. The server does not need the encryption key in order to be able to run or store the data, right? So feature parity with a lot of the stuff that we have within SQL Server, which is really, really cool.
And Reinaldo, I just wanted to let you know we have about 15 minutes left total and just a couple of questions, but we can save those for the end. Should be no problem.
Okay, and I'll run through. So I just showed you the screen about the Management Studio. There's a couple things about the column encryption key, which is when you encrypt, you can select one of those two types of encryption key, and I put a plus and a minus on what I think is positive, what is negative. So my favorite one, of course, the more encrypted is the randomized. However, the randomized is less predictable matter, right? It's more secured. So plus plus. The problem is that it prevents equality searches, grouping, indexing, and joining on encrypted columns. So the beauty of this always encrypted is that if I have my column encrypted with deterministic way, I can run equality column queries. I can do where salary equals 1, 2, 3, right? I can do a deterministic equality query against it. But it can also, if I do deterministic column encryption key, it can also allow unauthorized users to guess information about encrypted values, right? So for example, a very simple one is a true or false or male, female, right? If I use a deterministic for those, right, then, somebody can easily see, okay, Bill Gates, I know is a male, do a query on that encryption key, on that encrypted value, you get the encrypted value, okay, get Maria is female, get a query on that. So now a hacker could know what the encrypted value translates to, because it doesn't change, right? From male, is always going to be that value. Female is always going to be that value, right? The salary is always going to be that value, right? So it can allow some unauthorized users to guess some information, right? So it's a little bit less of a secured from a randomized one. And it must use a column collation with a binary to sort order for character columns, okay? So on the bottom I say here, choose this deterministic way for data that will be searched, and randomized, choose that for the data that will just be returned, okay? And a few ways that you can encrypt your data. One of them is using Management Studio, and the other one is using PowerShell, right? So if you're going to give the data to security analysts, let them use PowerShell. And this is the three personas that I was talking to you about. So one is the security administrator, right? The security administrator manages the key stores containing the column master key, generates the column master keys, and generates the column encryption keys. The DBA manages the metadata about the keys in the database and does not need to the key or key store holding the column master key, right? And the application developer, all they have to do is do this: add the column encryption setting equals enabled, like I showed you all, right? So three personas shown in here in this environment. And the other demo, which I'm going to try to do, is I'm going to try to show you now how to encrypt the data. So you all remember my database that was unencrypted, which is called specifically thank you, there you go, the 24 hours of pass unsecured and not encrypted. So I'm going to go to this server here. Again, I'm on the application server, not on the database server, even though I am connecting the database. So now I'm going to be like the security analyst doing the keys. So the first thing that you do, right? I only have with this one table called table current user with the salary, right? So I'm going to here and I'm going to create a master key. And what I want to show you here is that you can do a few things. One is the certificates, the Windows certificate store, which is what we're going to use, right? And the other one is, remember I mentioned to you about the Azure Key Vault or a hardware security module from a CNG provider, okay? So those are the three keys that we talked about. The only distributed store for the current user or local machine, this is for the whole machine. Current user is, let's say that you really want to be even more protective and only give access to a specific application login, for example, right? Then you could use that, and that's what I did in my own current user. But I'm going to use the local machine certificate, and it shows already what's out there, okay? So I'm going to create one called pass local machine 24 hours of pass. Okay. I'm going to generate the certificate, and it just created there. I'm going to click OK, and now this key is available right here. And then I'm going to go to column encryption key, and I'm going to create a new column encryption key based on that new column master key I just created. See, so you see here the column master key I just created, right? And I'm going to call this pass local machine column encryption key. Okay. So now I have the two keys from a perspective of the application done in there. So now let me go to the table, and I'm going to run a wizard to encrypt the column. And that's where you're going to see those two options to select. I'm going to encrypt the cellular column, okay? And it gives me the options of what keys I can use, encryption key, right? So I can use this one that I just created for you. And I'm going to select, I can select deterministic or randomized, okay? I'm going to do deterministic just to make it easy for me to maybe try to show you a little demo of selecting the data out of the salary, okay? But you can do deterministic or randomized. I'm going to click next, next. So now from the application side, right? So, and that's what I said, you can do this PowerShell script or run right now. So from the application side, right? I'm not on the database, I'm on the application server. The application server that has that key on the certificate store, I'm going to encrypt the data. So basically there's going to be a lot of data coming in into the application server, coming out of the application server as a client, right, to the database, and now changing that data on that table to now be encrypted, right? And the queries that I did before, which I think I did here, here. Okay, is it done? Okay, it's done. Click OK. Okay. So the queries I did before on the Always Encrypted table that showed me this way, right? Now is going to give me an error saying that failed to decrypt the data because this table now is encrypted, right? And it gives me that thumbprint. Remember the thumbprint number that I showed you all on the certificate, right? So from the database server, a DBA cannot access the data anymore. And of course, this is showing, this is because in the connection string here, I have passed that parameter of column encryption key enabled. If I take that off and I run the exact same query, which means I'm not saying this is encrypted, I'm going to see the value that is encrypted, and it won't get an error. So basically it's transparent from an application perspective, right? I mean, it's transparent to me that this is actually encrypted. I cannot see what the values are, okay? And last little thing I want to show you here is Managed Switch 2017 that just came out last week, okay? So on this Managed Switch, Managed Switch 17, not 2017, 17 that came out last week, okay? So the previous one was 16. So the 17, they added a couple things for column encryption key, always encrypted in here, which is, it allows me now to do some queries on the table, okay? It allows you to do equality queries on the table, so I can do here, I can do a select on the data, and I can see the data, right? I can also say where user equals, I'm going to make it easy for me, server 1, right? And I can also do, which I didn't do anything special until now, right? So I can do where salary equals to, let's pick one of them. And I should get back okay. Why did I get this error here? So the demo switches are out there. Okay, I remember why. I know why, because I have to do this. I have to do declare at salary equals this value, and where salary equals to at salary. So good demo. No, let me spell it. Oh. Okay, there you go. So I'm able to do parameterized queries against SQL Server Always Encrypted from an application server running Managed Studio version 17. So that's one of the things that is new. Back to my presentation. I showed you this, I showed you that. So I just copied those screens just in case I couldn't. So new to SQL Server 2016, Service Pack 1, Always Encrypted, is always also available. So I highlighted here in green, is also available on the Standard Edition, Web Edition, Express Edition, and row-level security as well, and dynamic data masking as well, right? So those were not available before Service Pack 1 on SQL Server 2016. Service Pack 1 just came out last October this year. So very interesting new stuff that came out on an SP1. Microsoft basically opened up the doors for a lot of the enterprise level products to be available on the Service Pack 1. New to SSMS 17, which I just showed you, is that now you can do inserts against encrypted column with parameterization. So you can do parameters, like I just showed you. If you press a parameter, you can insert, updates, deletes, and so on. And when you run for the first time, it'll give you this prompt window to ask if you want to turn on parameterized queries in your Always Encrypted table. And this hot out of the press, I just got this from Jakub just a couple of days ago. So parameters. So what is new, right? Coming out on SQL Server 2017 and in the tools. So mainly is on the tools part. One is parameterization, which I covered that with you all. Online encryption in PowerShell. So there's a search for online approach in here, and there's a new Reach Management Studio, a wizard for and command left for PowerShell. Key takeaways for this, I have a few links for you all, so you're all going to have the presentation later on, so you can click on the link. I know it's hard to look at this and then click. Don't worry about taking pictures, because you're going to get the copy of the presentation. And back to you, Anil.
Great, Reinaldo. That was great, great information. We did have a few questions come in, but since we're almost at the end of our time here, I'll just ask one quick one. One of the questions was related to the impact of database performance with Always Encrypted if you're using ranged queries or comparison operators, those types of things.
That's a very good question. And obviously, you know, as you saw on the results, right, of the query that when I just did a select, you can see that, you know, when I just got a salary, the salary just comes up with a number, right, with the money value. So the data is a lot smaller, right? There is no round trip to encrypt the data, decrypt the data, and so on, right? When you run a query against an encrypted column, there is that needed work on the client machine to encrypt the data when it sends, decrypt the data when it receives. So there's an additional work. So yes, there is some performance implication in there as well, right? But
Right.
between performance implication and giving out my credit card information or my social security number, you know, I'll take the penalty of the performance. There is, I think, some articles available out there about performance comparison between the encrypted data and the non-encrypted data with Always Encrypted.
Sure. Great. Great. That's perfect. Thanks for all of our attendees for attending this session. I just wanted to mention that the next session is going to be passive security for hostile environments with Bob Pusateri. So I hope you guys can join in for that. And thanks for all your comments and questions so far. All of you will receive a recording of this session, or will be able to download a recording of this session by early next week at the latest. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you all.